20 devil fruits that will break One Piece if real.
Devil fruits are by far one of my favorite parts of all of One Piece, and apparently they are yours too, because you all submitted nearly 2,000 submissions to my devil fruit contest, and there were just so many incredible options to choose from that I couldn't just stop at one video. So here are 20 more of the most mind-blowing devil fruits that should absolutely exist in One Piece. Starting with one of the most creative ideas I've actually ever heard of, which is the tattoo devil fruit submitted by Ethan.
I can already tell by the name, this better be some bullshit.
Basically, this ability allows you to draw tattoos all over your body and then turn those tattoos into real life actions.
Oh, never mind. That nigga creative as hell with it, ain't he?
For example, imagine that you drew a sword tattoo on your arm. Well, when you need a slicing attack, you simply use that sword tattoo and it appears as a slicing attack to cut down your enemies. Or imagine that you drew a giant pair of wings on your back, and then using that tattoo, it would allow you to fly a short period of time. In other words, yeah, an incredibly useful fruit in almost any situation.
What if you draw the wrong thing though?
As long as you have the creativity and skill to draw many different styles. Now, obviously, to balance this fruit out a little bit, a good restriction here is that once you actually use a tattoo's power, it does disappear from your body. So no, you can't just infinitely spam that sword tattoo that you drew. That also means that you're going to have to be careful about which tattoos you actually use when. And also, another incredible ability of this fruit could be that the larger that you draw the tattoo, the more powerful it actually becomes. For example, imagine that you drew a wave tattoo to send out water. Well, if the tattoo is kind of like as big as your hand, then it probably would just be a small burst of water, but then imagine if you draw the wave across your entire chest. Well, then you might get a giant tsunami to wash away all your opponents, but less space for other stuff. So yeah.
Wait, so you can only use one attack
These are
once, bruh? I ain't gonna lie, that ruined it, bruh. I was gonna say I was gonna eat it, but if you can only use the attack once, that's crazy, because you gotta be real strategic. I ain't gonna lie, I wanna spam that bitch.
Are exactly the kinds of super creative fruits that I love to see that can be used in combat, yes, but also in so many other situations. However, even the tattoo fruit would very likely get overwhelmed by the sheer power of the sound devil fruit submitted by Jello Boy, and this is just all kinds of powerful because this Logia fruit transforms its eater into a sound wave human capable of becoming and producing all types of sound waves. And at first you might be thinking, well, that doesn't sound so cool, but trust me, this fruit is insane because sound waves are literally everywhere around us all the time. So basically, this user can obviously send out sound waves to make crushing sonic booms, or they can make different voices and sounds all around to confuse people. You also get incredible speed because you can travel at the speed of sound. But that's not all though, because if your sound waves are strong enough, they can even act like a physical attack to knock people down, kind of like how you can feel the air vibrating in front of a super loudspeaker. And do remember, there are actual military weapons also related to sound. But to get to maybe the most broken part of this fruit, we do need to dive into science here for a moment, because recent research has revealed that people's brains can be somewhat controlled by certain sound waves, which is scary. And so yeah, an extremely skilled user of this fruit could possibly even influence a person.
What the fuck sound is controlling humans, bro? I ain't gonna lie though, I would not eat this. I wouldn't, bro.
Behavior to a certain extent. However, there is one major drawback here, and that's because sound waves can be blocked by physical objects, so this fruit can be majorly nerfed if the target is hiding behind a wall or something. But to be fair, sound travels faster in water, and there is a lot of water in One Piece. And while some people may be kept away from using that sound fruit, I can't think of anyone who wouldn't want this next one. And that's because Pete Culver from the United States submitted the Kibo no Mi, otherwise known as the Wish Wish fruit. And just like it sounds, this is the classic genie in a bottle ability, which grants the user exactly 3 wishes. And man, what a—
No, cause niggas is gonna be on bullshit. They gonna do that more wish shit. No, bro.
Ridiculous power to have, because with this fruit you could literally take over the world. Want to just become the ruler of the world government? Just wish for it. Or how about becoming the richest person in the entire world? Easy. Or you want to own one of the strongest weapons in all of One Piece? Done just like that. But as cool as this fruit is, we just have to include some real restrictions here as well, such as that you can't just wish for someone to be dead, no wishing for the ability to swim, since that kind of defeats the main weaknesses of devil fruits, and no wishing for more wishes or something that completely breaks reality.
Okay, bro.
You do have to be very specific about your wishes. For example, if you just wish for something like super strength, let's say, well, this fruit can give you that, but it might not be exactly what you were hoping for, because sure, you can have super strength, but you know, maybe only for 5 seconds if you don't specify.
I was gonna say I would wish for a mythical fruit, but you can't eat 2 fruits. Or you could wish for that too. I wish I could eat 2 fruits. That'd be tough.
In the right hands though, and with some really careful wishing, this fruit could easily help you take over the world. But what's crazy though is that this next fruit might be even better than the wish fruit in the hands of the right person. Because now we have the build fruit submitted by Floppo from Germany.
Fuck.
And just like it sounds,
Would it become handy mandy, bruh, by eating a fruit?
this fruit allows the user to build anything that they can imagine, as long as they have the right materials lying around. Which honestly
I would need
is
it.
so useful. I mean, with this fruit, if you're somewhere like, let's say, Marineford with lots of stone, metal, guns, and swords everywhere, you could just make yourself a giant mecha suit full of slashing blades and powerful guns, and that—
Bro, this fruit, if it's a build fruit, it should be able to let you build shit like how them Lego characters build shit in them video games, bruh. Just make them float and shit. I don't even know, bruh.
that's not enough for you. You could turn the stone beneath you into a giant castle or wall for defense. But of course, this fruit is even more useful outside of battle, because it could also just make you filthy rich if we're being real. For example, you instantly become the world's best one-man construction company, where you can just make houses, buildings, entire towns, or even the world government's ridiculous giant bridge here with incredible speed. However, one real downside of this fruit is that you can't really change your available resources too much, so basically you have to use what you've got around you. However, just wait until you see another power in just a minute on this list that will make this build fruit look like a child's construction kit in comparison. But before we get to that, we have—
Yeah, that's basically a Fortnite fruit. I'm not eating that, bruh.
the first of many super creative zone fruits, with the gecko fruit here, submitted by Brennan from the States as well. And this may sound a little bit underwhelming, but just listen to the incredible abilities that geckos actually possess. First, they of course all get the obvious normal zone abilities, like a full gecko form and a gecko human hybrid form. And along this, you get the ability to climb walls with your sticky hands.
If they change
Your gecko
colors?
body instantly becomes poisonous to touch, because many geckos are covered with poisonous slime, and along with this, you can shoot out poison at enemies, look in 2 different directions at once, and use enhanced hearing as well. But on top of all of that, there are 2 more incredible abilities that also make just way too much sense with this fruit. First, lizards are well known to be able to regenerate parts of their body, so a slow regeneration ability would make a lot of sense here as well. Plus, we could also give it a camouflage power on top, since many lizards are experts at blending in with their environment. In fact, that extra stealth factor makes it perfect for someone like a secret agent or a sneaky character like, let's say, Sanji. And still, there is probably no sneakier fruit than the next one.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I would down that gecko fruit. I would down it.
Which is the Phase Devil Fruit, submitted by
That's
Estinger
bullshit,
from
bro.
Canada. And to explain this one, basically think of yourself like a ghost, where you can just turn your body into
That's
an untouchable
bullshit.
substance. This ability would basically let you walk through walls with ease, sink through the ground, and pop back up in another place, and even make yourself immune from most regular attacks.
That's basically
and
a
they would just
Logia
pass
fruit.
straight through you. And man, can you just imagine someone literally popping out of a wall or the ground? It would be like the ultimate jump scare.
Bro, armament has to work. Like, it has to work on this fruit. What the fuck?
And on top of that, it's of course great for sneaking around and gathering all sorts of information. Enemies also wouldn't be able to hit you, although it's not too great for attacking because you also can't hit anything yourself while you're in an untouchable state, though I guess you could just materialize behind someone. However, it's the awakening of this fruit that could really unlock its full potential, because if the user awakens this fruit, they could be able to give their phase ability to any other object or person around them. So let's say if a friend is trapped in handcuffs, you can just phase them right out of it. And this would be even more perfect for, let's say, a sniper like Usopp, who could just make his projectiles pass straight through walls, rematerialize, and then hit the enemies on the other side. But now, this next fruit is going to take things to an entirely new level.
Yeah, that phase fruit could come in clutch, bro. I would eat that bitch. I'd eat it.
And that's because Keefstar Summon Summon-no-Mi is an ability that lets you summon creatures to fight for you in battle. And to be fair, this is a fairly common ability that we've seen in other anime, but essentially this fruit would let you call out monsters or other types of creatures to fight for you. So,
bro, every big animal that I've seen in One Piece so far got their ass beat. So if you summon some shit, they getting their ass beat, especially by the Straw Hats.
Classic magic user just sits back and lets others fight for them. But what's really cool about this power is that it would let you start off with some really basic creatures that you can summon, but as you get stronger and better with the fruit, then those creatures would start evolving to become terrifying monsters on the battlefield. And another special ability that makes this fruit even more unbelievably awesome is that you could also make contracts with other animals and creatures that you find in the world, so that you can then summon them as well. And I mean, can you just imagine a master of this fruit summoning a whole force of the most powerful creatures in the world, like giant lions, gorillas?
Bro, he be sneaking in these damn Naruto shits, bro. I just seen the Naruto files, bro.
Snakes, even sea kings. Truly, mastering this fruit makes you an entire world-conquering army all by yourself. But even summoning an entire army isn't as game-changing a power as the Truth Devil fruit submitted by CJ from the States as well.
Yeah, by me? What the fuck? I ain't even know about you until last week, 2 weeks ago maybe. But nah, that last fruit, I wouldn't eat it, bro.
Just like it sounds, this fruit allows you to force someone to answer your questions truthfully, which is pretty simple, yeah, but let's break down how it actually works. First, you must make eye contact with a person, and then only can you activate your powers. This basically forces...
So if they close their eyes, you ain't getting them.
The person...
But if they don't know about your devil fruit, then it's raps.
Into this trance-like state where they must answer any of your questions for at least a short period of time. So yeah, for example, let's remember when this guy casually dropped a hint about the national treasure of Marijoa and we all desperately wanted to know more. Well, using our fruit here, you could simply make him tell you everything that he knows about that treasure. And with this type of intelligence gathering power, you could basically instantly become one of the most important people in the entire world. For example, just look at this guy who basically controls the entire world's newspapers. He is such a highly influential person because he controls so much of the information that gets spread around the world. But just imagine how much more you could control the world if you could find out even more secret stuff that the world government or any of the Yonko or anyone else would never want to share. Though I do suppose that would also make you their #1 target, so maybe you should better keep your power secret. But to take this one step further, awakening this power would allow you to actually fire kind of truth bullets that would force people to tell you the truth even if you weren't looking at them. However,
bro, that's bullshit, bro. That is bullshit. That shit is not fair.
Doesn't seem quite powerful enough for you, you can just wait until you hear about this next fruit, which can literally make you as powerful as a planet. And that's because with the Orbit fruit submitted by Ophir from Israel.
Hey, bro, these fruits are not as good as the last 15 fruits that he said will break One Piece.
you can manipulate the gravitational pull of anything. That means that instead of everything naturally being pulled down to the earth by gravity, you could make yourself the center of gravity for the people and objects around you. And just to visualize what this actually means, if you make yourself the center of gravity, that means that things will start to orbit around you. So that rock sitting over there will now start to rotate around you. And the same goes for people and other objects. So you could have a ton of stuff and people just naturally pulling around you.
So you're just gonna have shit swinging around you like it's Mario Kart, and then you gonna throw it at somebody or some shit?
Like your own little planet. Of course, you can also make other things the center of gravity, but where this power of this fruit truly lies is by being able to quickly change the center of gravity to confuse opponents and even change the speeds at which things are orbiting. This would basically let you gather a bunch of objects around you and then shoot them off like missiles. So with a fruit like that would take a ton of practice, no question, but if you can master it, you would be basically a fighting god. But I'd personally still rather face that devil fruit in combat than this next one.
Wait, isn't there a gravity fruit in One Piece already? It's like an old dude or some shit. I remember it from one of the videos.
Because now we have the Tero no Mi from Alex Hinckley, otherwise also known as the Terror Devil Fruit. And oh boy, does this one give me goosebumps, because this devil fruit allows you to create illusions based on your target's worst nightmare. So let's imagine that you're in battle and someone is attacking you. Well, simply activate your terror powers and you can give them a heart attack by scaring them with their greatest fear, literally. And awakening this fruit could even turn the entire environment around you into a sort of nightmare realm where you basically paralyze your opponents with fear. However, there is one major downside here, because the illusions aren't really physical, so they can't actually attack the person. Also, if your opponent's worst fear isn't something all that terrifying, like fluffy pink bunnies or something for whatever reason, then your fruit is basically worthless. But still though, do keep the fruit away from me.
So that fruit basically just put niggas in genjutsus, bro. Literally. I can single-handedly beat Goku. Bro, Goku will kill you, bro.
Please. However, one fruit that will never be worthless is the Inoi no Mi submitted by Chris. And the idea with this fruit is that you can empty or fill up anything. And as a very simple example, let's say you were thirsty, but your water bottle was empty. Well, with this fruit, you can fill it back up with your favorite drink. Or if your fridge is running low, you can fill it up with food. However,
nah, imagine using this fruit to fill up somebody's lungs and making bitches explode.
Of course, as one major restriction here is that the things that you fill up or empty are only temporary, so the changes wouldn't last forever. And now you might be thinking that that's a pretty weak or mediocre fruit, but the true power of this ability, of course, comes when you move from physically filling or emptying things to doing the same with abstract concepts. For example, what if you filled your enemy's head up with the idea that they were actually your ally all along, so that they have to fight with you on the battlefield?
Bro, you're using the fruit wrong, bro. Which, okay, never mind. You're not using the fruit wrong, but it's not the way that I would use it, bro.
Or say that someone saw you sneaking into their fortress, well, you could just empty their memory of ever having seen you. So yeah, anytime we get these kinds of creative abilities, they're always just an instant winner in my head. And on that note, actually no one I think can argue that the snake fruit mythical model Boitata isn't just simply amazing as well. And this idea from PH Minduim from Brazil centers around the mythological Boitata creature from Brazilian folklore. Basically, this is a giant snake with a few special abilities. First, the snake is constantly covered with flames. So it has the ability to manipulate fire, and in addition to that, it can create optical illusions to confuse its enemies. What? But the ultimate ability it has is called the Eye Devourer, which will allow the user to steal an opponent's vision from one eye, which means that they are blind in the eye unless they can defeat the giant snake within a certain time period. Which, I mean, wow, is just such a terrifying and cool ability.
Bro, what the fuck?
Creature. And then on top of all the other normal benefits of a zone fruit, you're literally an enormous snake with unstoppable power and defense, which truly makes this fruit a devastating combat ability.
It's Kaido shit, but you just a snake, bro.
Now this next fruit here though is 100% the most cursed ability of this entire video, because Moses Defraud from Italy submitted the Dead Devil fruit, which basically gives its user a ton of death related powers that could completely break
the Grim Reaper.
For example, Moses suggests that this fruit allows the user to both communicate with the dead and summon some of the dead to fight for them. And while for obvious reasons the summoning part is already ridiculously overpowered and broken, I do think that being able to communicate with the dead is honestly quite broken as well. I mean,
how the
just imagine being able to just talk with the likes of Gold Roger or Joy Boy. Like,
the fuck is he gonna say, bruh? Is that, first off, bro, I don't even know, bruh. Zombies can't even talk, bruh.
Seriously, just think of all the crazy secrets and informations that you could learn from those people. However, this kind of really broken ability, we simply must give some restrictions as well. So I do think it would be—
or you communicating with a ghost, communicating from up above or some shit.
Be fair if it could only summon the dead if you have some sort of part of their body or skeleton or something like that. Plus, since summoning the dead is such a curse ability, let's also add the downside that using this ability drains your own life force as well, which means the more that you actually use the power, the faster you also die, which, you know, very
what the fuck
for a dead devil fruit, I guess. But now prepare yourself, because it's time for maybe the ultimate devil fruit, which is the fruit no mi, or as I like to call it, just the devil fruit. Because just like it sounds, this devil fruit allows you to create other devil fruits for non-devil fruit users to eat, which honestly, I mean, is of course such a broken ability and sounds like an unstoppable power for a pirate captain to have. However, you can't just mass produce infinite devil fruits, because the fruits that you create are only temporary. Plus, the more of these devil fruits that you create at the same time, the weaker they all get collectively.
Hey, fuck it though. Now I'm generating them bitches and I'm giving it to my crew. Fuck it.
Which means if you create one single lightning fruit, for example, will be pretty close in power as the real one, but if you would make, let's say, 100 lightning fruits at the same time, they would all be fairly weak. You also have to consider that the people eating these fake fruits would be mostly brand new to these powers, so they aren't going to be masters of these powers like most devil fruit users who actually have been using them for years and years in the story. Nonetheless, of course, being able to have your crew and people switch powers every hour or so would be
hell yeah
cool. You do not get any real abilities for yourself though, so that holds it back a little bit when compared to the unbelievable powers coming up next. For example,
yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I would eat that motherfucker. That shit will come in clutch for the whole crew.
There is nothing holding back this next fruit, because it is literally the mythical god of the underworld. That's right. This is the human mythical zone fruit model Hades, which was submitted by Benji. And in case you don't know, Hades is the Greek god of the underworld. And of course, we can't include all of the underworld's rulers' powers in this one devil fruit, since that would just be way beyond broken. But we can give it the ability to summon his guardian three-headed dog Cerberus, use his magical helmet that turns him invisible, and maybe some other dark magic regarding the underworld or the dead, like reviving people who have just recently died or something like that. And on top of all that, the user of the Hades fruit would become a massive figure, kind of like the giant Buddha here. And of course, being this big god has many natural benefits, including supernatural strength and durability. So altogether, this is just one incredibly broken, powerful devil fruit.
Ain't Hades able to take people's souls and shit?
However, even the god of the underworld isn't quite strong enough to compete with this next fruit, which is actually rumored to already be a thing in the real story. Because this is the blow fruit. Yeah, no, stop laughing. Otherwise known as the wind fruit. And there are different versions of this fruit, of course, but the one that Hurley from America submitted is basically a wind logia fruit, which turns you into a wind human. That does mean that your body is now made of wind, allowing you to basically fly. In addition, you can of course produce strong winds to make devastating tornadoes or wind slashing attacks. And of course, this is an unbeatable fruit when it comes to actually sailing and traversing the One Piece world, since you can just steer your ship anywhere that you want to go, including the calm belt. But one thing that makes this fruit,
hey, you can really blow somebody up with that fruit. Sneak in a nose or something, sneak in a mouth, pause.
even more impressive is its possible awakening. Because for this fruit, an awakening would basically allow you to control the air in the environment. And one possible use of this is that you could just suck the air out of the area around someone, making it so that they can't actually breathe. Which means, seriously, don't mess with the air power, which most likely probably has been eaten by Dragon anyways. And with these wind powers, we're now truly in the god tier level abilities, and that continues with the particle devil fruit submitted by Brett.
Yeah, I mean that wind fruit
allows the user to deconstruct and then reconstruct matter into any shape or form that they could possibly want. Remember the build fruit that we discussed earlier? Well, this is kind of like that, just 10 times stronger, because you can reshape the resources around you into literally any shape that you want. To put it simply, you can just take a bunch of materials and break them down into their core elements, and then you can put them back together however you want. For example, if you have a pile of wooden boards, you could break them down and then literally reconstruct them as one single tree. Or if you had a giant stone castle, you could break it down and reform it into a giant stone cannon, for example. Or really, whatever you wanted, as long as it's made out of stone, or maybe even extract the minerals or the gold from it, you know? Which, if that sounds to you like you might need 50 university degrees to actually use it, you're probably right, because it would take a ton of practice and studying to not mess this up every time that you had to put things back together. But man, once you have that figured out and you're somewhat smart, this would be an incredibly powerful and versatile ability to use anywhere and anytime. But now we're
bruh, I would need that fruit. Well, I ain't gonna say that. I'll leave that fruit in my bag, bro. I just leave it in my bag.
Finally getting to the fruit that you've probably all been waiting for, because this was the #1 most submitted fruit in the entire contest, and even though I didn't put it in the first video, we did just have to include it here. And that's of course the water Logia devil fruit. And out of the many applications, I did in the end choose the one from Umar from Denmark, and it's kind of like it sounds. It gives you the ability to turn your body into water, which lets you move around as a quick stream of water, shoot out bursts of water, or even create a giant flood wave to dominate a battlefield. However, I do have to clarify,
bro, I'm surprised they ain't even got no water fruit in the actual show. Why is that not a thing, bro? They got ice, but not this.
That this fruit does not give you the ability to just control all the water like some people apparently.
Actually, it makes sense. Because fucking half of One Piece is in the ocean or beside one.
Assume. I actually looked into this quite deeply, and usually for Logias, you can only control the substance that you actually produce from your own body. So you could only control water that you produce with your body yourself, not everything around you, which is still incredibly powerful, but it's not like you could just control the entire ocean or something like that. And to be fair, it is kind of debatable if this fruit would even work in the first place, since obviously water is the main weakness of devil fruits, but Assuming that it does work, then it would be obviously
damn, I didn't even think about that. I did not even think about that.
insane advantage against any other devil fruit user. But even the water fruit is hard countered by our number 2 here, which is the seal devil fruit submitted by Wisdom from Nigeria. I know this fruit is not this type of seal here.
I was
but
about to
instead
say,
it allows
the
the user
fuck?
to seal away anything, like trapping it away. For example, you could seal a rushing river and then release it at the right time, or you could seal a door. So
Oh, so we doing that scroll shit from Naruto, bro.
no one can ever open it, which
That,
honestly sounds kind of
Tamari, I
boring
think that was her
until you
name.
Consider that you can also seal not only physical things, but abstract things such as memories, movement, strength, emotions, or even devil fruit abilities, which, I mean, come on. If you can seal those and prevent someone from using them, then this truly is a beyond broken fruit. Now, to be fair, Wisdom did include some pretty fair restrictions with this as well, though. Like, you can only seal one thing at a time, and that each seal comes with a unique condition that's produced that will actually end up breaking that seal. For example, if you seal Luffy's strength, then there might be a condition like he has to do 1,000 push-ups to break the seal and use his strength again. That one is, I mean, not the best example maybe, but you get the point, which is just beyond awesome and exactly the kind of creative devil fruit power idea that I just love to see. However, nothing on this list, even the seal fruit, is as creative, broken, or
Hey, I would eat that seal fruit. I would. That motherfucker was tough.
useful as our number 1 fruit, which is the author fruit submitted by Ricardo Cardona from the States. Because with this fruit, you gain the ability to summon a magical book and an area of effect box, kind of similar to, you know, Law's room ability. And then any story that you write into that book becomes reality within that area of effect. So just to like clarify what that means. Let's say you're fighting an insanely strong opponent, and then using your powers, you can just write a short story including the character which says that they were tragically blinded sometime in their childhood on their 5th birthday, and then, well, the magic book will literally force reality and the character to be blind while they are within the area of effect, where basically they suddenly have been blind their entire life.
Hey, I'm pretty sure everybody eating this devil fruit, bro. Everybody got it. That's why it's at the number 1 spot. Yeah, I'm eating this one for sure, bro.
And what's more interesting about this fruit, though, is that the area of effect starts getting larger the more skilled the user of the fruit is, so eventually, possibly, you could even influence an entire battlefield like Marineford. However, to be fair, the strength of this fruit would also depend on the user's skill with writing stories, because I can just imagine that a simple story might cause a weaker effect, while a more complex and better written story would make the powers way stronger. Though, to be fair, I do wonder what would happen if, let's say, the author devil fruit went up against the mythical zodiac fruit, or if the water devil fruit user had to fight against the blood devil fruit. And if you want to see exactly what all those insanely broken fruits are all about, you can watch the first part of our contest right here. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, the author fruit is the best fruit on this motherfucking list, bro. That shit can literally beat every single one of these fruits on here. But yeah, W video.